It's great to help others, to let someone go ahead of you in line, to return a lost wallet,
I think he took his wallet.
to carry a pram down some stairs. These things are little, but they're nice, the right thing to do. But half the time when we do nice things, no one really notices. It might make us wonder if doing it even matters. Then we feel guilty for expecting a reward for doing something so small, and even when we do feel good, the feeling doesn't last very long. Sometimes it feels so meaningless so quickly, we wonder if we should have done it at all. Feeling foolish for feeling proud, disingenuous for seeking praise. I mean, if you're really a good person, you should do everything you can, not just whatever you can manage, right? A good deed is good because it makes a difference people can see, a difference they can feel. Good has to be noticed in order to be good, otherwise, what's the point? Well, heroism is complicated. Yeah, I said heroism. Might seem like an overstatement, but we can't underestimate the impact we have on other people, except that we can, and we almost always do. I mean, the human brain is a sucker for validation and drama, and the more dramatic something is, the more validating it can be if we caused it or fixed it. But the little good deeds don't always give us those emotional rewards, and we can feel disappointed. But that's why they're superheroes. Ever wonder why the most revered people in the world aren't doctors or firemen or nurses? Why they're more often artists or musicians or movie stars? I mean, why do we celebrate the pretenders, the showmen, the demonstrators of heroism? Why do we idolize the people pretending to be heroes instead of the people who actually are? It's because heroism on a stage or a screen is heroism we can see. It's heroism we can feel, we can comprehend. Real heroism is complicated, but movie heroism, that's right in front of our faces. And don't even get me started on superheroism. Superheroism? Superheroism. Pretty sure that's not a word. Superheroes are one of my favorite things. They're faster than a speeding bully, more powerful than a local mode of transport, and able to leap tall orders of moving beyond the minutiae of human existence to throw into the sky a blazing sign that says this is important. They're the underdogs of overstatement, the overkill of underconfidence, the unweaponed jelly crystals of fictional validation. And like all fantasy, they dramatize the mundane on a grand scale. They explore human fears and struggles through the lens of metal claws and iron jaws. They represent the human capacity for sacrifice and the defiance of evil. And they do it all with a wink and a smile. Superheroes are us, plus 1,000 tons of muscle or magic or ingenious technology which offers them muscle or magic. They're inherently good and inevitably right, inhumanly strong yet humanly vulnerable. They show us more than we realize, and they're more powerful than we can imagine. And superheroes don't have to wear capes. Sometimes they're experiments, or plants, or robots. Sometimes they're not characters with immense powers, just the uncommon power to make an immense difference. The ones with tight suits and primary colours are the most distilled version of a superpowered being. They're often dedicated to using their power for good, and their certainty in their goal is mirrored by their willingness to tell people about it. Superman and Spider-Man are much more obviously do-gooders than Batman or the movie X-Men. Their bright colours display their pure, simple type of heroism, whereas the shades of grey to black symbolise the increasingly complex morality of the more realistic superhero. Because what is heroism? Well, first of all, it's sacrifice. International sports stars aren't heroes in the way first responders are, but the heroism of the everyday is often hard to demonstrate without a detailed knowledge of the complex abilities that real-life heroes require. So the next tenet of heroism tends to be great power of some kind, some power that is clearly beyond human capacity, a power that doesn't require explanation. The more relatable hero is the regular person granted great power by their circumstance, maybe due to an alien invasion or a dystopian regime. These heroes are more subtle and essentially regular people in an irregular world, and it's their world which provides the drama for us to witness their great deeds. Then we have the purest form of hero, the ones with not only the strength of character to make an obvious sacrifice, but the strength of body to make an obvious difference. And maybe that's why we like superheroes so much, because their heroism works. It's clear and definitive, it doesn't have to be scrutinized. And while superheroes have increasingly come in shades of black and grey, we maintain a fondness for the primary colours. Because we crave simplicity, the reassurance of success, the clarity of conviction. It's so much easier to try to do good when you know whatever you try will have an impact, will cause a change. Real life is so full of decisions and indecision, of complications, of shades of grey. It can be frustrating to want so badly to do the right thing, to feel so good and valuable, but to first have to figure out what valuable is, what good is. And with no guarantee, the best solution you have will even work. Primary colour superheroes rarely have that problem. These types of superheroes can skip right past all that. They often have all but a guarantee that what they're doing is right, and all they have to do is figure out how to make it happen. And so often, they're the only ones who can, so they aren't burdened by the indecision of wondering if they're good enough, if they're the right one for the job. Even if they doubt themselves, the story inevitably sets them up as being some sort of chosen one, the only hope. So much of their struggle is in the doing. Superheroes have the physical superiority and moral reassurance that what they do will matter, and that they matter enough to do it. Superheroes aren't burdened by the option of not to bother. And there's a relief in that, in knowing what you're supposed to do with your time, knowing that it will be good by definition, and so will you. As a sort of fictional proxy, superheroes save us from having to figure out the meaning of life and our purpose in it. They represent a kind of guarantee of closure on the value of our actions as we make our way in the world, trying to do what's valuable, maybe even what's right. They represent a guarantee that we're not wasting our time by existing, or anybody else's. Being a superhero, someone with special powers or the power of special circumstance, is a shortcut to validation. Unlike the rest of us, superheroes don't have to wonder if they're special, if they'll ever do amazing things, if they'll have a meaningful life. Superpowers guarantee that. That's why we love the parts of stories where the heroes discover their powers, when they realize they're special. The specialness of a superhero is so obvious. They're so different in such a beneficial way that it's easy for others to see how special they are, how valuable and necessary. That validation is something we all crave, and it's what superheroes let us experience through them. As a superhero, you wouldn't have to justify your life choices to critical relatives at Christmas, or cringe at the thought of a high school reunion. Even with a secret identity, you would still have the inner assurance that you matter, that you weren't a waste of space, that no matter what, you had potential. What's more, you defy categorization. Because even if someone were to criticize you, you'd be so far outside of the norms of human ability and perception that the only person fit to categorize your potential would be you, and possibly some secret government officials who weren't to be trusted. Superheroes let us indulge in an egotistical desire to be valuable to everyone, but accountable to no one. They make us solely qualified to dictate our own destiny and give us the freedom to choose how we fulfill it, all under the noble pretense of heroism. And therein lies the greatest power and temptation of the superhero, which is another reason we like it. The power fantasy to do good, but also to know that if we choose not to, there wouldn't be much to stop us. Hence the popularity of the ability to fly, for one, to escape society, to be free of its pressures. Because the pure world of the superhero is morally good, but the closer we get to the real world, the greyer morality becomes. No longer do we have this moral guarantee of a life well lived. If superpowers existed in the real world, well, we've seen a lot of interesting examples of how it could go. And this fascinates us as well, but it doesn't comfort us in the way the distilled version of superheroism does. The reassuring simplicity of its outlook, good guys and bad guys and trying your best to win the day. We like stories because they distill life, and we like superheroes because they distill validation. They're the easiest way to know you're good, to feel that you matter, to know you deserve to exist, to save yourself by saving everyone else. It's the selfless dream of a selfish dreamer. Because the quickest and easiest way to feel good in life is to help other people. It makes them feel good and it makes you feel good. It's the most rewardingly selfish, unselfish thing you can do. But there are risks to helping others. Usually, the more help they need, the more risk it is to help them. So even with a desire to help others, we're limited by our lack of money or power or expertise, or just our mortality. But if you were a superhero, none of that would be a problem. You could be good every time you wanted to. As mortals, we don't necessarily consider the pressure or expectation of having such power, even the pressure we put on ourselves. But that's why most superhero stories don't really deal with this. They don't deal with the nervousness of superhero failure, the guilt or shame of superpowered selfishness. Their challenges are rarely about whether or not they should do good, they're mostly about how to do good. Tony sacrifices his life to save others, which is something a lot of heroes do in real life. But imagine having so much power that you could save the whole world with the snap of your fingers. That an enormously powerful, painful, and beautiful decision could be executed so easily. That's what superheroes are. They're all the power we need to make the hard choices simpler, because they get rid of all of our doubt, all of our indecision, all of our excuses. They simplify our conflicting feelings of right and wrong, of helpful and unhelpful. In superhero stories, the solutions to problems are often pretty clear. They don't have to wonder if their sacrifice will make a difference. They only have to decide whether or not to make it. And once they overcome their own fears and learn what they need to learn, all they have to do is push as hard as they can, and they can be sure they're doing what's right. Real life morality is not so cut and dry. Tony's snap, for instance, if it were a real life scenario, would probably come with immense collateral damage. The snap would probably have a blast radius, so in saving the world he has to sacrifice himself as well as a few innocent allies. Or his snap would work, but not completely because of the limits of his human imagination, and maybe unborn babies or people in comas wouldn't be brought back from the ether. These kinds of complications aren't the concern of most superhero fiction, at least most of the time, because they're too complex. And superheroes, like most stories, are by their nature an attempt at simplification, empowering us to act by making the solutions feel within reach and making us feel like reaching, if we're willing to try. Some people have the attitude that in real life, trying to be a hero isn't enough. It's not the thought that counts. Good intentions don't make a hero. To be a hero in real life, you have to succeed, like an athlete or a celebrity or a media mogul. The word hero seems to have become synonymous with success, even though a person can be a success without being a hero, and a hero without being a success. Because heroism isn't about success, or fame, or drama, or even the outcome of a situation. It's about sacrifice, and the intention to sacrifice. But you can't see intention unless it's dressed in primary colours, or a badge, or a uniform, or scrubs. The trend in the last few decades to make heroes darker, more realistic, or both, may reflect a growing desire to stop dreaming of how much we could help if we were super, and start realizing how much one's power isn't as meaningful as one's intention, one's sacrifice, and how our powerlessness, perceived or otherwise, may be a reason to give up on heroism, but it's not an excuse. Because you don't need to lift cars to be a hero. Being kind when you don't have to, helping someone up a flight of stairs, buying someone a coffee, all of these things can be powerful. They're just not obvious. We tend to equate drama with value, and the mundane with the meaningless, but something doesn't have to be impressive to be kind. We like superheroes because their heroism is obvious, it's clear, it's definable, it's dramatic, it's easy to feel good about, and easy for others to recognize. But real-life heroism is subtle. What seems like a tiny act to us may be the finger snap that brings somebody's world back to life. Easy to overlook, or downplay, or ignore, but it's also easier to do, and more powerful than we can imagine.